Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into something kind of wild.
Yeah, it's pretty out there.
So picture this. You're about to have a baby, and it's going to be a C-section. And like any parent to be, you've been reading up, and you know all about the microbiome and how
Mhm.
crucial it is for a baby's health. But you also know that babies born via C-section can kind of miss out.
Yeah, they miss out on some of those beneficial microbes that
Exactly.
babies born vaginally are exposed to.
Right. So what if there was a way to give those C-section babies a boost? Like what if you could make sure they got those good microbes?
Well, researchers are exploring some pretty fascinating possibilities.
Oh, really? Like what?
Okay, so get this. What if we told you it involves using a tiny bit of mom's fecal matter?
Wait, you're talking about giving babies.
Yeah, in their first milk.
Hold on. So like a poo smoothie for newborns.
You got it.
Wow. Okay, I did not see that coming.
I know, right? Just definitely not your typical baby food.
No, not at all. And this is like legitimate research. It's not just some crazy idea.
Oh, yeah, it's real deal research. Yeah. They presented these findings at IDWeek, which is like a major infectious diseases conference.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just some fringe theory.
Nope. This is serious science.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued but also a little grossed out if I'm being honest.
Uh-huh. I get it. It's definitely got that ick factor.
It totally does. But how does it actually work? Like what's the science behind this?
Well, it might sound strange, but there's actually a very solid scientific rationale behind it. We've known for a while now that the microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria and other microbes living in our gut,
Mhm.
it plays a huge role in our overall health.
Right. The microbiome is such a hot topic these days.
And for good reason. It impacts everything from digestion to immunity and even potentially long-term health outcomes.
So how does this microbiome boost? How does that fit into the picture?
Well, think about it. Babies who are born vaginally, they get their first dose of those good microbes from their mom as they're passing through the birth canal.
Ah.
But C-section babies, they miss out on that, and that can impact their health down the line.
Yeah, I've heard that C-section babies might be more prone to certain conditions later in life. Could that be because of those missing microbes?
Exactly. We see a statistically higher likelihood of things like asthma, allergies, even some autoimmune disorders in C-section babies.
Hmm. So is that like a direct link? Or is it more of a correlation?
Well, it's hard to say for certain, but researchers believe this difference in their gut microbiome might be a contributing factor.
Okay, so this tiny microbiome boost, it's all about giving C-section babies a microbiome that's more similar to vaginally born babies.
Precisely. And the hope is that it'll lead to better health outcomes.
That makes sense. Okay. But I gotta ask, how do they make sure it's safe to give a baby, well, fecal matter? I
You
know.
know, it's not just like some DIY project.
Right.
It's a carefully controlled clinical trial, and they're taking meticulous safety precautions.
Okay, so they're not just grabbing any old sample.
No, no, no. They screen the fecal samples rigorously to make absolutely sure they're free from any harmful pathogens.
Wow, so they're really taking this seriously.
Oh, absolutely. They had to exclude a significant number of mothers from the study because their samples didn't meet their super strict safety criteria.
Wow. Okay, that's reassuring.
Right. So once they have a safe sample, they prepare a special milk mixture that contains a minuscule amount of the mom's fecal matter,
Minuscule, huh? Like, how much are we talking?
like 3.5 milligrams.
3.5 milligrams. That's like less than a sprinkle of pepper.
Exactly. It's a tiny, carefully controlled dose.
Wow. And they give this to the C-section babies in their first feed.
Yep. Some babies get this milk mixture and others get a placebo.
Oh, so what happened? Like, did this microbiome boost actually make a difference?
The results are pretty remarkable, actually. The babies who got the boost showed much higher microbial diversity in their guts,
Really? And how soon did they see a difference?
like crazy soon,
Yeah.
starting as early as day 2.
2 days. That's incredibly fast.
Yeah, it is. So basically, those beneficial microbes got to work right away.
Okay, but explain it to me like I'm 5. What does microbial diversity actually mean for a baby's health?
Okay, so imagine a garden. A diverse garden with lots of different plants is usually healthier and more resilient than one with just a few types of plants, right?
Yes, that makes sense.
It's the same with the gut microbiome. More diversity means a wider variety of beneficial bacteria, and that's linked to all sorts of good things: better digestion, stronger immune system, even potentially a lower risk of certain diseases later in life.
So it's not just about having lots of bacteria, it's about having the right mix of bacteria.
Exactly. You need that biodiversity for a healthy gut. And what's even more impressive is that this increased diversity in the babies who got the microbiome boost It lasted for a long time, all the way up to 6 months of age.
6 months. So not just a temporary change.
Nope, lasting impact.
So a tiny intervention at birth could potentially set these babies up for better health down the road.
That's what the research suggests.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just the beginning. We're starting to scratch the surface of what we can do with the microbiome. And this research is a really promising step.
This is fascinating. Speaking of giving C-section babies beneficial microbes, I've heard of vaginal seeding.
Yeah.
How does that compare to this approach?
It's a great question. Vaginal seeding, where they swab a newborn with fluids from the mother's vagina, hasn't been as successful as they initially thought.
Really? Why is that? You'd think it'd be a pretty straightforward way to transfer those beneficial microbes.
It turns out those vaginal microbes aren't very good at colonizing the baby's gut. They might hang around for a bit, but they don't really take root and become a permanent part of the baby's microbiome.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. So now researchers are shifting their focus to the gut-based microbes.
Makes sense. I mean, if you're trying to influence the gut microbiome, it seems logical to use microbes that actually thrive in the gut.
Exactly. We're getting more targeted with our approach, which is opening up all sorts of exciting new possibilities.
This is really groundbreaking stuff. So where do we go from here? What's next for this research?
Well, the researchers are going to continue monitoring these babies for the next 2 years to see how their microbiomes develop over time.
Oh, wow. So a long-term study.
Yeah, they want to see the long-term effects of that initial microbiome boost.
That's really cool. And what about the bigger picture? What are the long-term goals of this kind of research?
The ultimate goal, to identify the specific beneficial microbes that are absolutely essential for a healthy start in life.
So instead of transferring the whole fecal microbiome, they want to figure out which microbes are the real MVPs.
Exactly, like a microbial all-star team.
I love that. So once they know which microbes are making the biggest difference, they can develop more targeted treatments.
Precisely, treatments tailored to individual needs.
Wow. So like a personalized cocktail of beneficial microbes for each baby?
You got it. And in the future, we might even be able to create these microbial transplants in the lab.
Lab-grown microbes, without any risk of pathogens.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate personalized medicine.
This is mind-blowing. Imagine being able to give every baby, or even every adult, a perfectly tailored microbiome boost.
It's an amazing possibility. And as research continues, I think we're going to see even more incredible discoveries that could completely revolutionize how we think about health and disease.
It's so exciting to think about the possibilities, and I'm sure we'll be talking about them more as this research unfolds.
Absolutely. This is a field to watch. There's so much more to come.
So we've been talking about all these potential benefits, but I think it's time we address the elephant in the room.
You mean the whole poo thing?
Well, yeah, that and also, the safety concerns.
Right.
Because I'm sure our listeners are thinking, okay, this is fascinating, but is it actually safe? Are there risks involved with giving babies fecal matter?
Yeah. I mean, it's a completely understandable concern anytime you're talking about, introducing foreign material into a baby's system.
Yeah.
Especially something like fecal matter. But it's important to remember that this isn't just some random DIY experiment they're doing in their kitchen,
Right.
This is a very carefully controlled clinical trial with rigorous safety protocols in place.
Right. They're not just grabbing any old diaper and calling it a day.
Exactly. They're being extremely meticulous about screening those fecal samples.
Okay, so walk me through that. Like, what kind of screening are we talking about?
Well, first of all, they're only using samples from healthy mothers who have passed a whole battery of tests.
Okay.
And then those samples are screened for all sorts of things, bacteria, viruses, parasites, you name it.
Wow.
They want to make absolutely sure there's nothing in there that could potentially harm the baby.
So they're being super thorough.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, remember how we talked about how they had to exclude a bunch of mothers from the study?
Yeah, because their samples didn't meet the criteria.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That just shows how seriously they're taking the safety aspect of this.
Okay, so that's reassuring to know. But I'm still curious about the actual process. Like, how do they actually give the baby this microbiome boost?
So once they have a safe fecal sample, they basically prepare a special milk mixture
Okay.
that contains a tiny, tiny amount of the mom's fecal matter.
We're talking like a microscopic amount,
Okay,
right?
basically. It's just 3.5 milligrams.
2.5 milligrams. I can't even picture how small that is.
It's like a speck of dust, basically.
Wow.
And they mix that into the milk and give it to the baby in their first feed.
Okay, and some babies get this special milk and others get a placebo.
Exactly. So they can compare the two groups and see if there's a real difference.
So it's a double-blind study.
Yep. That way they can eliminate any bias.
Okay, so back to the safety issue. Even though they're being so careful, Are there still any potential risks?
Well, I mean, there's always some level of risk with any medical intervention,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But in this case, the researchers are doing everything they can to minimize those risks.
Mm.
By carefully screening the samples and using such a tiny amount of fecal matter,
Mm-hmm.
they're really trying to make this as safe as possible for the babies.
And so far, they haven't seen any adverse effects.
Not that I'm aware of,
Mm-hmm.
but of course they're continuing to monitor the babies very closely.
That's good to hear. So, based on everything we've talked about, is this something you think all C-section babies should be getting? Like, should this become standard practice?
That's a really good question. And honestly, it's a little too early to say for sure.
Okay.
The research is still in its early stages, and we need more data before we can make any definitive recommendations.
Right.
But the early results are definitely promising, and it's something I think we should absolutely continue to explore.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is. And, in the future, we might even be able to go beyond this and develop even more targeted interventions.
Oh, like what?
Well, instead of just transferring the entire fecal microbiome,
Mm-hmm.
we might be able to isolate the specific microbes that are most beneficial for certain health outcomes.
Oh, wow.
And then we could create personalized microbial cocktails tailored to each baby's individual needs.
That would be incredible. Like precision medicine for the microbiome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting area of research, and I think we're only just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. So let's recap for our listeners what we've learned today about this fascinating research. We've been talking about how this microbiome boost, or as we've been calling it, the poo smoothie,
Right. Yeah.
could potentially give babies born via C-section a healthier start.
And it's not just some wacky idea. It's based on some really solid science.
Right. We talked about how C-section babies miss out on those beneficial microbes they'd normally get from passing through the birth canal.
Exactly.
So this is a way to kind of make up for that.
Yeah, it's like giving them a head start on building a healthy gut microbiome.
And we've seen some really impressive results, even in the short term.
Yeah, those early results are super promising. Seeing that increased microbial diversity just 2 days after the boost is pretty remarkable.
It is. And it wasn't just a fleeting change either. That diversity lasted for months,
Right up to 6 months.
which is really exciting.
It is. It suggests that this simple intervention could have a lasting impact on a baby's health.
And that's what's so fascinating about all this research on the microbiome. We're learning more and more about just how crucial it is for our overall health.
Yeah, it's like a whole hidden world inside us that's just now being explored.
And it's not just about babies either. It's relevant for everyone.
Absolutely. What we're learning about the infant microbiome can inform our understanding of the microbiome throughout the lifespan.
Right. And the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. I mean, if scientists can figure out exactly which microbes are the most beneficial, could we one day be creating personalized microbiome cocktails?
It's definitely a possibility. Imagine being able to target specific health concerns or even prevent certain diseases from developing just by optimizing someone's microbiome.
It's like science fiction becoming reality.
It really is.
This whole field of microbiome research is so exciting. It feels like we're on the verge of some major breakthroughs.
I agree. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can learn and what we can do with this knowledge.
It makes you wonder what the future holds.
Yeah, who knows what amazing discoveries are just around the corner. It's a fascinating time to be following this field.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure as always. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. We'll see you next time.